He solved the one problem everyone has, and most people still don't know his answer. Buddha, a man who figured out why we suffer and how to stop, not by changing the world, not by getting everything we want, but by understanding something about the human mind that changes everything. Because here's what he discovered: you're not suffering because life is hard. You're suffering because of how your mind works. And once you understand that, once you really see it, you can be free, even when life stays exactly the same. So let's go back. About 2,500 years ago, there's a prince named Siddhartha, lives in a palace, has everything: wealth, power, pleasure, protection from anything ugly or painful. His father built this perfect bubble around him, because there was a prophecy that said if Siddhartha ever saw suffering, he'd leave everything behind to find answers. So his father made sure he never saw it. But you can't hide reality forever. One day Siddhartha leaves the palace, and he sees an old man, then a sick person, then a dead body, and his whole world breaks. Because suddenly he realizes, everything I have is temporary. This body will age, it will get sick, it will die. Everyone I love will die. All this pleasure and comfort and security, it's all going to end. And that thought destroys him. Because if everything ends, if suffering is guaranteed, what's the point of any of it? Most people deal with this by not thinking about it, by distracting themselves, by pretending it's not true. But Siddhartha couldn't do that. Once he saw it, he couldn't unsee it. So he walks away, from the palace, from his family, from everything, and he goes searching for the answer to one question: why do we suffer, and how do we stop? He tries everything. He studies with teachers. He practices extreme discipline. He pushes his body to the edge of death. He meditates for hours, days, weeks, trying to find the answer through suffering itself. But it doesn't work. He nearly dies, and he still doesn't have the answer. So he sits down under a tree, exhausted, done trying, and he makes a decision. He's not moving until he figures this out, even if it kills him. And that's when it happens. Not through effort, not through suffering, but through seeing clearly, through understanding something so simple that everyone misses it. He realizes that suffering doesn't come from pain. It comes from resistance to pain, from wanting things to be different than they are, from clinging to what feels good and pushing away what feels bad. Think about that. Pain is just sensation. Unpleasant, yes, but it's just information. Your body telling you something, but suffering is what your mind adds to the pain. It's the story, the why me, the this shouldn't be happening, the if only things were different, the fear that it'll never end. All of that is extra. All of that is created by your mind. And that's why you can have pain without suffering, and why you can have suffering without pain. Buddha saw this clearly. He saw that we spend our entire lives in a cycle. We want something, we get it, we feel good for a moment, then it fades, or we lose it, and we suffer. So we want something else, and the cycle repeats, over and over, forever, until you die. And most people never escape it. They just keep chasing the next thing, thinking this time it'll be different. This time it'll last. But it never does. Because that's not how life works. Everything changes. Everything ends. And as long as you're clinging to things staying the same, you're going to suffer. So Buddha taught a different way. He called it the middle way. Not chasing pleasure. Not forcing suffering. Just seeing things clearly and responding wisely. He broke it down into what he called the Four Noble Truths. And they're so simple that people think they must be missing something, but they're not. It really is this simple. First truth. Life involves suffering. Not because life is bad, but because change is constant, and we resist change. We want things to stay good. We want to avoid pain. But that's impossible, so we suffer. Second truth. Suffering comes from craving, from wanting things to be different than they are, from clinging to pleasure and pushing away pain, from thinking we can control what we can't control. Third truth. Suffering can end, not by changing the world, but by changing how you relate to the world, by stopping the craving, by letting go of the resistance. Fourth truth. There's a path to ending suffering, not a complicated one. Just a way of living that trains your mind to see clearly and respond wisely instead of reacting blindly. Now, let me break down what this actually means in your life. Right now, today, you're probably suffering about something. Maybe it's a relationship that's not working. Maybe it's money stress. Maybe it's your job. Maybe it's your health. Maybe it's just general anxiety about life, and your first instinct is to fix it, to change the situation, to make it better. And sometimes that works. Sometimes you can change things. But a lot of the time, you can't. Or you can change one thing, but then something else becomes a problem. And you're back to suffering again. Buddha would say, the problem isn't the situation. The problem is how you're relating to it. The story you're telling yourself about it. The way you're resisting what is. Let's say you're stressed about money. You don't have enough. Bills are piling up. You're worried about the future. That's real. I'm not saying ignore it, but notice what your mind is doing. It's not just dealing with the present moment. It's catastrophizing. It's imagining worst-case scenarios. It's comparing your situation to others. It's telling you stories about what this means about you as a person. All of that is extra suffering, created by your mind, added on top of the actual problem. Buddha would say, deal with what's actually in front of you. Make a plan, take action, but stop torturing yourself with stories about how terrible everything is. Stop resisting the reality that money is tight right now. Just accept it and work with it. The moment you stop resisting, the suffering decreases. The problem is still there, but the inner battle stops. And that makes everything easier. Or, let's say you're in a relationship that's difficult. Your partner does things that bother you. You argue, you're disappointed. You think about leaving. But you're also scared to leave. Most people stay stuck because they keep wishing their partner would change. They suffer because reality doesn't match their expectations. They cling to an idea of how the relationship should be instead of seeing how it actually is. Buddha would say, see it clearly. Without the stories, without the shoulds. Is this relationship actually good for you? If yes, stop fighting it. Accept your partner as they are. If no, leave. But stop this middle ground where you stay and suffer because you want them to be someone they're not. That's the key. Stop fighting reality. Stop wishing things were different. See what is, and then respond from clarity instead of from resistance. Here's another example. You're aging. Your body isn't what it used to be. You're not as strong or as quick or as attractive, and that bothers you. You look in the mirror and you don't like what you see. Most people suffer over this because they resist it. They want to still be young. They compare themselves to their past self. They feel like they're losing something. Buddha would say, you're suffering because you're clinging to an idea that doesn't exist anymore. You're resisting a natural process that can't be stopped. And that resistance is the suffering. The aging is just happening. It's neutral, but you're making it painful by wanting it to be different, by thinking it shouldn't be happening, by making it mean something about your worth. What if you just accepted it? Not gave up, not stopped taking care of yourself, just accepted that this is what bodies do. They age, and that's okay. That's normal. That's life. The moment you accept it, the suffering drops. You might still prefer to be younger, but you're not tormented by it. You're free to just live your life as you are now. This is what Buddha taught. Freedom from suffering doesn't mean life becomes perfect. It means you stop making everything worse with your mind. You stop adding unnecessary pain on top of unavoidable pain. And here's what's crazy. Once you stop suffering over everything, you actually start enjoying life more. Because you're present, you're not constantly fighting reality. You're not trapped in your head replaying the past or worrying about the future. You're just here, experiencing what's actually happening, the good and the bad, without making it into a drama. Buddha called this enlightenment, but it's not some mystical state. It's just clear seeing. It's understanding how your mind creates suffering and choosing not to do that anymore. It takes practice. Years of it, probably. Because your mind has been creating suffering your whole life. It's a deeply ingrained habit. But it can be changed. Every time you notice yourself suffering, pause. Ask yourself, what am I resisting right now? What am I wishing was different? What story am I telling myself that's making this worse? And then just stop. Just for a moment. See the reality without the story. Feel the sensation without the drama. Be present with what is instead of fighting it. That's the practice. That's the path. And the more you do it, the freer you become. Not free from life's challenges, but free from the inner battle that makes everything harder than it needs to be. Buddha found this freedom sitting under a tree 2,500 years ago. And it's still here, still available, still waiting for anyone willing to see clearly. You don't need to be a monk. You don't need to give up everything. You just need to understand how your mind creates suffering, and then choose differently. The freedom you're looking for isn't out there. It's right here, in how you relate to what's happening, in whether you resist or accept, in whether you cling or let go. Buddha figured that out, and he left a path for anyone else who wants to be free. The question is whether you're willing to walk it. Watch the next video for more wisdom that actually frees you.